And now, HamRadioConcepts presents another exciting amateur radio video, keeping ham radio operators informed with a thorough look at the new products. Now, here's your host, Eric, KJ4YZI.
What is up, everyone? Subscribers, newcomers to the channel. This is Eric with HamRadioConcepts. Let me ask a question here. Raise your hand if you have a D-Star radio. Now, raise your hand if you have heard of a hotspot or a dongle for D-Star and know what it is. A lot of people are not in RF range of a D-Star repeater, so they have a D-Star handheld, and they really can't use any of the D-Star linking functions or any kind of reflectors on the internet and such because they don't have range to the repeater. Well, check this out. I am not an expert yet on the Raspberry Pi or the DVmega. This kit right here is available at gigaparts.com, and I've done several videos for Gigaparts. I love the store, but I bought this because not only has this kit got everything you need to put it together, they even put the SD card with the software and instructions on there. So all I really have to do is go through, read the instructions, fill in my call sign and a couple blanks, set a couple parameters, and that's it. I mean, you're rocking and rolling. Now, the Raspberry Pi itself has really no creation of ham radio, but it's used widely in ham radio now. But it's actually a full-fledged standalone Linux computer. And I'll show you that in a second. But now that with the technology of Raspberry Pi and something like the DVmega, you can combine these two and have a portable dual-band hotspot that you can use with your D-Star radio and connect to any reflector and do any kind of stuff on the internet with D-Star that you could if you were sitting right next to a repeater. But you can take it with you traveling in a hotel, if you have Wi-Fi in a hotel. If you have a personal hotspot in your phone, you can tether it with your phone and use this as you travel. And when you're not in repeater range, this is amazing. And like I said, the fact that they have the software on there makes it so easy because I am not an expert yet. But I took this apart, I put it together, I played with it, and it really was easy. Because when I got into people I know around here, they were asking me, when are you getting a hotspot? Do this. There are so many avenues to take when you take a Pi with a DVmega and you try to load it with software. There's a lot of software and a lot of stuff available on the internet. However, if you're blind going into it, it's going to be a lot of research. That's why I got this kit, because it got me started. And then from there, we can make several other videos using the DVmega for stuff like Fusion, for DMR, and other stuff. But right now, we're going to focus on what this kit is, showing it with the D-Star, how easy it is, and then we'll have several other videos showing that. So, gigaparts.com, check this out, and links in the description, and let's get to it. Alright, so let's start with the meat and potatoes of the Raspberry Pi. Now, again, not being the total expert, there has been several different versions of this, the Pi 2, Pi 3, models B, B+, and stuff like that. You can research all that online about the different Pis. This one, to my understanding, is the latest, and at this time of the video, with wireless LAN built on and Bluetooth. Okay, let's check out the Raspberry Pi. And actually, it'll show you here on the back. The Pi 3 is 1 gig of RAM, all right? It has BG and N wireless LAN, Bluetooth 4.1. All right, so it is, again, a standalone Linux computer. People use these Pis for all kinds of stuff. I've seen these for video streaming, devices on TVs and stuff, like Netflix. I mean, you could put all kinds of software on these. Here it is. This is the Pi. So looking at it, there's 4 USB ports, a LAN port for Ethernet, okay? Audio out, HDMI, the power, which is a standard, like a Galaxy or a Samsung power connector. The SD card goes in the bottom here, just slides in. And this right here is what they call the GPIO connector. So this is the main thing here. There's certain pins on here that are for certain things, but the possibilities of this Raspberry Pi are really endless. I mean, you can connect keyboards to this, touchscreen devices, and there's some other connectors here where you can connect keyboards. I personally, myself, when I hooked it up, I used a USB keyboard and mouse for this to set it up. Probably the simplest way to do that. And mine was wireless. It did work with a wireless keyboard and mouse. So, just in a basic view here, this would go to your HDMI port on your TV or a monitor with HDMI. Your keyboard, your mouse, Ethernet. The first time you'd want to plug in Ethernet on here. You don't have to, but you can plug Ethernet in until you get the wireless settings in. And then your SD card and the power. Now, this can be used with a, you ever seen the power banks? And they have outputs for phone chargers and stuff. And a lot of people take these and they put it in a little box with a case, and they have their touchscreen controller on there and stuff. And they use it with a battery bank because this comes with a power supply. This is specifically designed for the Raspberry Pi. Now, again, the cord is a standard plug here for the power, but this is a 5.25 volt, 2.4 amp switching power supply. Really high efficiency. It has a switching because this, with it being a computer, requires really precise power demands for it. So this is specifically designed for it. But if you get the right power adapter, you can, with a battery bank, you can put this on here, and this thing doesn't draw too much, but you can power this with a battery. Now, so here's the Raspberry Pi. Next, you would have the micro SD card. Again, this comes from the Gigaparts. They used a really good quality SD card, and the software is already on here. This is a 16 gigabyte micro SD card with the adapter so that you can put this in a computer and do different things with it. I will tell you from previous experience, guys, trust me, you do not want to play with very cheap China knockoff SD cards. I promise you, because I had a lot of video footage from Dayton Hamfest. I lost it all because that SD card went haywire, and some videos wouldn't play, some would, some were all pixelated. And it's not the device, because I bought a good SanDisk card, not the same one, but I bought a good SanDisk card, and it's fine now. So I lost a lot of video footage because of that. And people will tell you, you want a high-speed card. This is speed up to 80 megabytes a second. And this is really an authentic card. So please do yourself a favor, spend the $4 more and get an authentic one. I promise you it will be worth it. And I learned the hard way. That's not anything that someone told me. That is my personal experience, and I paid for it. So you take the SD card out of here, and they have some tape on here, so I'm going to take this tape off, and I'm going to put that in there, because all the software, this Raspberry Pi alone has nothing on it, just the memory to hold stuff. So you put the SD card in here with an image, or image file, or files, to make it do what you want. So there is no hard drive on it, everything runs off the SD card. Now, so you have all that. Now, the big thing that makes this a ham radio hotspot is the DVmega. This is an add-on for a Raspberry Pi. This is dual band, supports VHF, UHF, and is compatible with several different Raspberry Pis. It does have an SMA connector on it, which this kit comes with a Maldol dual band stubby antenna. This looks, you could use a plethora of different antennas on here, but if you're using this as a hotspot, if I can get this thing open, you don't need this gigantic antenna on here, high gain 19-inch antenna on here. All you need is something for yourself to use while you're in close proximity of it. So this is a stubby antenna, and I will tell you, this works outside of my house all the way out to the road, and this transmitter is really only, what, 10 milliwatts? So you only need a little antenna. But to look at the DVmega itself, we'll put that aside for now. To look at the DVmega, this is the magic right here. There it is. Now you see, it does have the little ports here, the little pins, that's 10 pin there. And to my understanding, it does depend on where you plug this in. So looking at this real quick, this is VHF, UHF, SMA connector. And there's a screw on here. Now this kit came with a screw in this little post. That is one thing, because when you plug this onto the board, like I'll show you right now, that's going to plug just on like this. Alright. Now, to avoid this being broke, there's that screw with that little plastic post. Do you see that in there? Hopefully you can see that. What people have done is taken a dab of hot glue on this, and they put the shield or module on here, and that way the board has just got a dab of hot glue on there, because it is a little bit shaky, but not a big problem. You can improvise. So that's going to go on there. Now the Raspberry Pi is going to communicate with this board, and it's going to create a radio out of it, given you have the right software on there. So, but then you got to have it in a case, right? So there's a case right here, and this, with the kit, has a hole pre-drilled for the antenna, the screws inside, and we will put this in the case, and that way it's housed in a protected ABS box here, protected from being damaged or dropped. Of course, you don't want to drop this thing on the antenna. That'd be a bad thing. But with the case, the antenna, power supply, the SD card, Raspberry Pi, and a DVmega, again, you have an entire hotspot right here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this up to the computer, and I'm going to remote into this with my computer with a VNC. Okay, so built onto this, you can remote into it on your network with an app on your computer or even your smartphone and remote into it, because I want to show you what the interface, the desktop, they call it a GUI, a GUI, what the GUI looks like on the screen, and we'll go clicking through it together so you can see what makes this thing tick and you can understand how it works. And then I'll see if I can make a contact on there if someone's around. So let me put this together and get it on the computer and tether into it from my computer on my network, and we'll look at what it does. So now I have the Raspberry Pi up. When you first get the Raspberry Pi, it's going to start up and it's going to open two windows here. This video is not intended to show you really exactly how to program this, because the instructions are actually here on the desktop. What I want to show you though is this is the GUI or the GUI. It's like a regular computer, Linux based. Start button up here on the top, you know, and you have different apps on here. I'd imagine there's not apps, but program code. You can put all kinds of stuff on here. But I mean, there's a full web browser. There is Office tools like Microsoft has, and a lot of this as a full-fledged computer. But the point of this video is to show you that it is running as a hotspot. So a lot of the menu functions over here really are not going to pertain to you. But it's going to open these two windows, and these two windows here are pretty much where you would see all your information, okay? But like, for example, when you Gigaparts has their little background on here, okay? In the README file is the instructions. This is what I was telling you about. They have all this code loaded, and it basically tells you, you know, this kit will allow you to set up your own D-Star hotspot to interact with and use to communicate with other D-Star enabled transceivers. Now, as you go down here, you'll see it asks you to open a terminal window. The terminal right here, well, you open the terminal window, and it tells you, let's see, where is it? Right here. Type in sudo raspi-config. So we'll just do that real quick. Sudo raspi-config. And it opens up this. And then it shows you in here the first couple steps of setting a password and stuff like that. And you want to save when you make changes. And then the other two tabs here, actually, the tab up here, right here, the little world, the WDS widget. What this is called, this whole interface that they're using on here, is the Western D-Star. Now, from my understanding, you can get a lot of different images and a lot of different ones. This is from Gigaparts, so that's why this says this. But there's other ones that you can put on here, like Maryland D-Star is a popular one. There are some other ones that have their own little ways of doing it. So this is the only one I know of so far, because this is basically what I've just learned so far, is the Western D-Star. And the config on the Western D-Star, there's some information online about it. If I can open this up here, I'll show you. There it is. Okay, so right here, here's your configure gateway button and your D-Star repeater 1 configure. And this, it tells you in the instructions what to do. Basically, a lot of these are already set. I just put my call signs in here in certain places. Okay, and the rest of the stuff should already be there. And like configure gateway. Again, they have all the stuff pretty much in there. And you just, again, put your call sign, repeater 1. Now, reflector, this is where you would set it to choose to which, you know, once you do this, you don't have to hook up again to it and change anything. Basically, you set it, for instance, I'm set up to reflector 078 Charlie.
Now, I had to add that in there. That's a whole other topic. The info is online. Basically, you're editing an INI file or a notepad file in here, and you're adding a line to include reflector 078 or your reflector if it's not on here, because it only went up to 074, I think. Yeah, right here. And then it has your X reflectors. I'm not exactly familiar with XRF yet, but see, it stopped at 74, so I had to add 78 on the list. So it can be done. And I'm sure there's updates to the software that already include that. I haven't updated this yet, but there's commands you can run to update this, and that might update the reflectors as well. And basically, you know, you set the frequency of the hotspot. I'm just using 145.650. There's a couple different places you want to put that in. And that way, you're using it as a simplex hotspot. You're just using it on whatever frequency you choose. I chose 145.650. Just to do some testing, and that's what I'm talking to this hotspot on. So just to show you that this, and what I'm doing right now, I'm remote into it because I'm not, I'm on a desktop with this has a VNC enabled on it so that you can virtual network connection, VNC viewer, right into the Raspberry Pi. And that way you don't have to hook it up to a monitor every time with a keyboard and mouse. I can do it right from my desktop here as it's running in the other room. And I can make my changes. You can even do this on a phone. I have the app on the phone, and I pull up. So if you're in a hotel somewhere, and let's say you want to change something, you can go ahead and do it right from your phone, and you don't have to worry about plugging it in with a keyboard and mouse. Now, there are other commands that you can set on your radio for different memory channels, and that would be reset commands or reboot. That would be shut down information, stuff like that. So you don't want to just unplug this. This is essentially a computer. You don't want to just rip the plug out as it's doing something, because that could potentially damage the software or the card or what have you, because if it's in the process of a read-write like a regular computer and you pull the plug on it, it loses files. So you always want to have a shutdown, and all that can be found online as well, a shutdown command or a reboot command, and then you just key the radio with that and it sends the command to this. And that way, it does it for you. It reboots it or shuts it down so you don't have to just yank the power out. So at least you get an idea of what the GUI looks like. So other than that, that's about it. I mean, I can get some audio real quick and show you how it works with the Raspberry Pi, and let's check that out.
From now. J2JUS Mobile Phone. November 4 Delta Whiskey Mike in 4 DWM, Dave and Stewart.
KJ4 YZI.
Alright, glad to get a few more on there. Evening, Tom. How you doing? KD2JUS. Go ahead.
So now I have the ability to get right on this net on Tuesday night with the same audio quality and the same functions as I would being right next to a repeater. And I had to make some memory adjustments for this. You have to put the appropriate RPT1 and RPT2 into there so that this knows that you're talking to a hotspot. So you can look that up online also. You can see that the frequency that my hotspot is, and then the KJ4YZI space C, and that's to do with the RPT1, RPT2. So you have to be in DR mode, or I had to program this in DR mode, but with the software to make sure I got it right. I couldn't just do it with the regular VFO mode. But again, you also have the looking at the functions here, you can use the reflector, use reflector link, and stuff like that, all from your hotspot. So, bottom line, this is a real good way for me to get into this hotspot, fad. And now what I want to do is I want to make some other videos and show this Pi with the DVmega. DVmega, where's the box at? There it is, the DVmega, and use this for DMR. So that I can use my TYT DMRs and some other ones that are coming my way
And even from what I understand, they have Fusion working on the DVmega. So we're going to check those out next. I need you to subscribe if you're interested. Thumbs up on the video. Check this out. Links in the description for gigaparts.com. And as always, thanks for watching 7.3 from KJ4YZI.